All right, ladies and gentlemen, dudes and dudettes, we are back here on Dude Sessions, and we have yet another special guest, good friend of me and myself, and a lot of other friends here with the network. Southern West Virginia boy down there from Charleston area. His dad was Tex Williams, one of a Hall of Fame coach for the state of West Virginia, and he committed to play at SEC school powerhouse Kentucky under Tubby. And then transferred to Marshall and has had coaching stops along the way at Central Florida, Longwood, and currently at Stetson University, mixed in with a head coaching tenure at Salem International in Salem, West Virginia. Adam Williams, how you doing, sir? How you doing?
Good, Tony. Thanks for the introduction. I appreciate it, man.
I'm trying. It could have used a little work. They're a little windy. I try to make a little bit of a pop, but here we are. So
there you go. It was a great job.
No, thank you. So we are greeting us from Stetson down in DeLand, Florida. Where exactly is DeLand, Florida? Is it the Panhandle, Central, North, South, East, West?
Yeah, it's really it's kind of eastern central part of the state. We're about 15 minutes from Daytona Beach.
Okay.
We're about 45 minutes from Orlando. So we're right in the
perk of the job.
What's that?
Perk of the job?
Unbelievable. One of our things that we talk about in recruiting is more than half the battle, get a kid to come down here. And the location is just fabulous. You can be in your car, you can see Orlando, you can go to the beach and then see an Orlando Magic game in the same day and sleep in your bed that night. So it's a pretty good spot.
That's a real good spot. So like you said, you were quite the basketball player in Charleston area, and St. Albans, correct? St. Albans.
Yep, that's correct.
The Dragons, I got it. Yeah, still know my mascots down in Charleston area. So you basically were playing summer ball one day, and next thing you know, you're getting offers from Kentucky. What happened, and up to where you got the experience that not very many people get to play? If there's a basketball school you want to be on scholarship at, it's at Kentucky. How did that happen, and what was that like?
Well, it was unbelievable. First of all, growing up in that area, I was really closer to Lexington than I was Morgantown from a distance standpoint. So a lot of people in Southern West Virginia, as you know, are Marshall fans or Kentucky fans, and along with Mountaineer fans. But I grew up a Kentucky fan. I loved them, and it was kind of a dream of mine it'd be awesome to play here one day. And my dad took me to their basketball camp every year growing up in the summer. And so that was those camps were they're not phased out at this point, but higher level recruits don't really go to those things anymore, the school camps.
Right.
But at that time, a few of them were still going. And so I'd go every year. And really, I just went because it was Kentucky. I wasn't worried about the competition. It was UK. And so Coach Smith and his staff had seen me play there as I got a little bit older. And I think it just kind of was a natural progression. Brett Nelson was at St. Albans a couple of years before me, and they had recruited Brett. My dad had known Tubby Smith for, since the early 80s when he was at Charleston. And so the relationship of, I guess I wouldn't say they were friends, but acquaintances at the time, knew of my dad. My dad knew of Tubby. Tubby knew about Brett. They recruited Brett. And so it was a familiarity where they kind of had heard my name, knew that Coach Williams was going to have a son coming up that was going to be pretty good. And just going to camp every year, they kind of saw my development from one year to the next year to the next year. And one thing led to another. I played well enough to earn an offer. And so, when they offer you, there's not a lot of thought that goes into it.
So was there anybody else that was offering that was in the mix that if Kentucky doesn't happen, it's going to fall into this next tier of schools? Or was it, you just kind of knew there was always a chance that Kentucky was going to happen or could happen? You just kind of held out for that.
Yeah. I was so young at the time. It was right after my sophomore year.
You got offered early.
Yeah, it was early, and I hadn't played a ton of AAU ball yet. I played a little locally, and I played some AAU ball, but not like the national circuit. Obviously, EYBL and the Adidas circuit and the Under Armour circuit weren't there at that time, so it was a different time. And so, Kentucky really had known about me going to those camps, like I had mentioned. But at the time, Marshall was recruiting me. Coach White was there. And he and my dad have been close for a long time. My dad, one of his best friends, was rest in peace, Coach Knuckles that was at Mullins there. And Coach Knuckles was Coach White's high school coach. So that relationship was there. And obviously my dad played at Marshall. And then when Gail Catlett was finishing out his tenure at West Virginia, they were recruiting me. And the plan was, according to my dad, that they wanted to make me the youngest offer in program history in 8th grade.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, I think it was either 8th or 9th. I can't remember exactly. The details are a little blurry there. But long story short, Coach Catlett ended up stepping down. Coach Beeline gets the job. And so I got to know Coach Beeline just a little bit. And I went to his camp. I can't remember, it was the summer when he got the job or it was in the late spring. He got the job. I went to his camp. I was getting to know his staff. 2 weeks later is when I went to Kentucky's camp and they offered me a scholarship. And so, yeah, and it was, I have so much respect for WVU and the power of that program and what it means to our state. But, growing up where I did and I'd had the relationship with Coach Smith, I mean, it was just like starstruck almost. And really that probably hurt my career. As a player, every time I walked in there, I was like starstruck. Wow, this is Kentucky. And,
wow.
So that's kind of how all that, materialized and kind of why, I didn't wait a little bit longer. I'd had that relationship with Coach Smith and I didn't really know Coach Beeline. And at the end of the day, I probably didn't fit as a player with Coach Beeline anyway, with his style. So it probably worked out for everybody.
So like Randy Moss in his documentary on Rand U, he went on to record saying he actually got, from the Charleston area, such as yourself, he got a lot of flack for not playing at WVU. So when you made the decision to go to Kentucky, instead of waiting for an offer, well, you already had your offer from WVU, did you get a lot of pushback from some people in the state of West Virginia, like some other athletes did in the state's history?
Well, I should clarify, again, I'm not going to say I'm positive that was an offer I had received. I think it was we planned to and we want to. I don't know. I never was told, hey, we're offering you a scholarship. So
Gotcha. So you had an out.
Yeah. And so, but anyway, a little bit, not like Randy. And the reason it wasn't like Randy is because I'm Adam Williams and he's Randy Moss. And there's a little bit of talent there. And so, yeah, usually, but I was a promising prospect in state at the time. And, I think it was understood, well, it's Kentucky and, knowing my history, where I grew up and things of that nature. But, of course, man, it's the Mountaineers still at home, and so I think some people were, they'd poke jokes at me in fun-loving jokes like, hey, man, I don't know. The Cats didn't look too good. You may want to go check out the Mountaineers. I hear Coach Beeline's got a pretty good squad, things like that. And so it was really a situation where it never was a, give you a hard time deal, but it was always like, well, why don't you check us out? Why would you leave home? And I'll never forget, I can't remember what grade I was in. It might have been right after I committed to Kentucky. That going into my 11th grade year, but I saw Kevin Pittsnoggle.
Oh boy,
Charleston Civic Center. Yep, saw him at the Civic Center, and we played AAU ball together with a team from Martinsburg one summer. Okay. So we had a little bit of a relationship. Panhandle Players, okay, was the name of the team, and I think it evolved to like West Virginia Select or something. But anyway, Kevin had said to me, "Hey man, like you really should consider changing your mind." And I said, well, Kevin, I see what you're saying, man, but it's Kentucky. He said, I understand what you're saying, but you're a West Virginia boy. I'm telling you, you should consider changing your mind. And he never, led on to what any of that meant. I think it's just they treat you so well there. You're from here, and just your status of being a West Virginia boy going to play for the Mountaineers and what that would mean from a notoriety standpoint, from a popularity standpoint. And so I know he had a great experience there. And so, that's a story I'll never forget that happened.
He still has a good experience there, I am sure.
Yeah, no, he's a legend. Yeah,
his awesome tattoo on his bicep with the flaming basketball, if I'm not mistaken, right?
He's a phenomenal dude, man. Kevin is he's a fun-loving, simple guy that he doesn't love the notoriety. He loved to hoop, man. He loved to play basketball. And so some guys play for the wrong reasons. Not that cat. He just liked to play.
Right.
He loved to play.
I think that whole team, that's why they went to the Final Four. I mean, They just had a bunch of scrappy dudes that just wanted to win more than other players, and that's why they're able to just make that run there in the tournament. So you're at Kentucky, so you've traveled the filet mignon life, and you've been the head coach at Salem International. So you've also balled on a budget on the hot dog budget. What was the travel life like for a Kentucky basketball player? I mean, was it as glamorous as what people think? I mean, I'm sure. I mean, I know there was your work, and it wasn't easy, and it took a lot of work. But when it came to taking care of its players, what was Kentucky like? Because it's like basketball team is the thing down there.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like, you think Alabama football, it's same breath as Kentucky basketball. And so, you're going to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse on the road. I mean, you're flying private planes, chartering places. It's a different life. But those guys that are there, I mean, they've earned it.
Yeah.
As we say in coaching, talent is the price of admission. Okay, talent is the price of admission. So the reality of the situation is those young guys that are at Kentucky are extremely talented. They're the elite of the elite in the world to be able to play there. And they really, Kentucky's, the Dukes, the Carolinas, places like that, they're afforded opportunities and royalties and things that a lot of young men at other places aren't. And not saying those other young guys don't deserve them, but certainly those guys at Kentucky and Carolina, places like that, do.
So how many times at Ruth's Chris did you go to for Salem?
My wife and I went one time.
Did you refinance the house on that Salem contract?
Yeah, that's great. I'll tell you what's funny, and I talk to my mentors about this all the time, and it's the realest thing I could ever say. Kentucky is phenomenal, obviously, the things we touched on and the reality of who they are and what the Big Blue Nation is. But in the real world, okay, the best thing that ever happened to me in my life was going from Kentucky and then 5 years later being an assistant at West Virginia Tech.
Yep.
And what that does is it gives you an opportunity to see this is the real world, and it humbles you. And you realize that deal at Kentucky that I lived for a year, that's not reality unless you become a professional athlete. Now, those guys that go there now, I mean, it feels like half the team every year goes pro. And so for those kids, that is real life. That will be real life.
Yep.
But for a guy like me who wasn't an NBA player, I think it would have been very hard, the adjustment to society, the adjustment to having a real job after living that for 4 years. That would have been tough. And so I think it's a blessing in disguise for me looking back. I spent 1 year, I was treated like a king. I traveled like a king. I ate unbelievable, stayed at the nicest hotels. And then to be able to be at West Virginia Tech 4 or 5 years later, you just see the broad spectrum of the college game. And even, passing through, going to Marshall, spending 4 years there, the reality of what college basketball is not Kentucky. That's what people think and see.
Yeah, right.
That's like the top, that's the 1%er is what that is.
Nicest outside of Rupp Arena. I'm sure Rupp's like number one. If they're not number one, who's number one? Nicest arena you ever got to play in, or the second best outside of Rupp?
Kentucky fans will be throwing their shoes at me, but the Yum Center is the nicest college arena that I've been in.
Okay.
And, when I was at UCF as the assistant director of operations, they were in our league in the AAC before they went to the ACC, and we played there. And I mean, it's like a high level NBA arena at the time.
Oh my goodness!
It's probably 23,000. I mean, it's all the crazy advertisements with the bright lights and everything shiny and new, and it's really, the Kentucky basketball as a whole, not UK, but the state of Kentucky, those fans get it. They understand. So when I played at Louisville, or when we played at Bellarmine this year at Stetson, or when I was at West Virginia Tech and we played at the Cumberlands or Lindsey Wilson, those fans get it. So what I say by get it, they know when to cheer, they know when to boo, they know when to be quiet, they understand the respect of the game of basketball, the good crowds at every one of those schools. It's just really a way of life in that state. So again, two of the nicest arenas in the country right there, an hour from each other, the Yum Center and Rupp Arena.
Probably adds a little fuel to the rivalry, I'm sure. It's probably a relieving contest, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's like it's a one-up city. We got this. Yeah, well, guess what? Now we got this. Oh, well, we got that, and we're getting this. And so that's the life down there between those two.
All you gotta do is just drive somewhat close to Louisville, and you can see every neon sign of the baseball field, like every facility down there from the interstate looks amazing. Because I couldn't imagine what it'd be like up front and personal. All right, so we went up here. So now we know where we're going with this. We're gonna go down. Least favorite place of all time you've ever had to be in, and we can throw. And I probably know the school you're going to say, and I'll tell you which one mine was of all the schools I had to go around and cover for radio. But you went to a place and you're like, oh my God, they play college basketball here.
Wow. Well, when you have that Division II life and NAIA life, there's a number of them. I will say this: when I was at Tech, that Mid-South Conference, I mean, that's some of the better spots on the East Coast for NAIA. So, again, that was about 12 years ago. None really stick out there. Urbana in Ohio was tough. That was tough.
Rest in peace, Urbana.
Yeah, rest in peace. When I first got to Salem, it was tough. To be honest with you, when I first arrived to Salem, it might have been the worst facility and setup I had ever seen when I first got there.
I had my worst radio gig experience when I was at AB at Salem. I had to run like 200 feet of phone line because there was only one phone jack in the whole arena that was active, and I could actually get a ringtone to dial out on.
I believe it, man. And there was all kinds of issues when I first got there. And then the new president, Danny Fineff, came in, and it's like that guy has been a godsend for that place at Salem. And he's really done a great job with branding, with just the common sense of fixing basic things. Like, this is where our money needs to go. We need to fix this. This is a basic necessity. We need to fix that. And so once you get all those things taken care of, now you can start to really work on the other parts that add value from maybe a graphical standpoint, or maybe a standpoint of student experience extra, and so he's done a great job of fixing all the simple things that seem like common sense, but for whatever reason weren't addressed when I first took that job. And so, but I have to say, to answer your question, Salem, when I first took that job, was probably the worst situation from facility campus standpoint I'd ever seen.
Really?
And, yeah.
That's not what I would have said.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well,
I would have said Bluefield State with the metal thing right down the middle of the floor.
Bluefield is tough. Bluefield and Salem have a lot of comparisons. I felt like it's funny. The one thing Bluefield State had we didn't is chairbacks in the gym, chairback seating. We had the bleachers from, it had to be 19, and it was before Archie was there. I know that, but
they weren't even on a motor. They had to pull them out by hand.
Well, me and my assistants would pull them out.
What a job description.
So they were nailed together with other pieces of board and all that stuff.
It was a mess. I wish I had something to do like an overage here. Best part of that broadcast, I finally get the telephone wires hooked together. Second half, there's a dive for the loose ball. They dive across my phone cord. I lose connection. So the game's still going on. I'm off the air, and I'm out there trying to get the pieces and parts to go together. I'm like, during the game, I'm still on the sideline. Like we lost like 10 minutes of the second half as I tried to reestablish. But that was my Salem International nightmare. I thought another one that was really rough was Wesleyan before Wesleyan. OVU was tough because OVU, you had to the walls are so tight.
OVU was tough. That was a tough one. That was a small, compact. You're right. It's almost like you're at a church league gym with how tight those walls are to the sidelines.
Yeah. I think they had the space. Yeah, you had to give them space there on the sidelines. You had to stay so far back. One of those situations, right?
Yep.
That's actually the one school I never had to do a radio gig in. 5 years covering Dweebiac, and I never once had to go to OVU, which I wasn't losing any sleep over. NAIA now, that was a good move for them, in my opinion.
Right.